Just a perfect Monday night. Clear skies, temperature 66 degrees as you look at downtown Baltimore. And on the edge of downtown, the atmosphere is electric at M&T Bank Stadium. Out onto the field come the Baltimore Ravens as we conclude week 4 of the National Football League season. And tonight they'll take on an old Raven and one of the best running backs in the league, Priest Holmes, and the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Al Michaels along with John Madden, Michelle Tafoya. Welcome to Baltimore, where the Kansas City Chiefs, who finished 13-3 last season, come in 0-3. And you don't have to be an MIT graduate to figure out how difficult it's going to be for this team to make the playoffs. They desperately need a win tonight. So far this season, their offense, like last year, has been good. Their defense, like last year, has been porous. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, they got a wake-up call on opening day. They were favored to beat Cleveland, but lost to the Browns on the road. Then rebounded to beat Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, and much like their team in 2000 that won the Super Bowl. Great defense, terrific running game, led by Jamal Lewis. And, John, I think back to the 2000 season when they told the quarterback, Trent Dilfer, don't lose games for us. Just get us through the game. Are they saying the same thing to their second-year quarterback, Kyle Bowler, this season?
I think they're saying the exact same thing to Kyle Bowler. You look at the Baltimore Ravens, and when you think of the Ravens, you think of defense. When you think of defense, you think of Ray Lewis. That's what this team is. It's built around a strong defense and a strong running game in Jamal Lewis. And all the quarterback has to do is throw the ball about 18 to 25 times a game. That's what they ask Kyle Bowler to do. This year, they want him to run a little more. And if you get back there, if there's nothing open, don't do anything stupid. Don't throw interceptions. But if you find a lane, take it if you can get a first down.
Now they face Kansas City. I mean, Dick Vermeil, who's been around for a while, he can't give them a Newt Rockne speech. They're 0-3. They know what they have to do. But what can a coaching staff do? Can they do anything differently to bring a team into a game like this?
Yeah, you can, because you know what happens is when you lose, you not only lose a game, but you lose confidence. And then you lose 3 games, you lose a lot of confidence. So Dick has to get his guys back. And I think they have to go the positive way, because they didn't lose a lot of players. I mean, they have a lot of good things. If you say, okay, where can we win? Where can we build this team? They have maybe the best offensive line in football. They have maybe the best tight end in Tony Gonzalez. Trent Green can do the job. They have a punt returner, a kick returner, and Dante Hall. So they have tools. They have ways to win. They were 13-3 last year. He has to build upon that.
The crowd, you can hear them there in postseason form, and out onto the field, Ray Lewis, the great Ray Lewis, who tonight is mic'd up on Monday Night Football.
This is that moment right here, right? This is that moment. This is what we all work for. If we're looking to go 4-1, we got to go 3-1 first. So let's get these people out of our house, dominate them like we're supposed to dominate them, and let's finish what they start. You know we're doing 3. 1, 2, 3.
Here are tonight's yards per game rushing. And in the air, Chiefs quarterback Trent Green comes off a 3-touchdown performance, and Kyle Bowler in his second season quarterbacks the Ravens. Our Visa Skycam providing very unique and great views, the ability to fly over and above all the action on the field every Monday night. And when we come back, a very special treat for Priest Holmes of the Kansas City Chiefs.
ABC Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
I mentioned a special treat for one of the great running backs in the NFL, Priest Holmes of the Kansas City Chiefs. And for more on that, let's go down on the field and Michelle Tafoya. Michelle.
Well, Al, talk about having perspective on the 0-3 start to the Chiefs season. Priest Holmes comes into every game hoping his dad can watch him play on TV. And he's never really sure, because his dad, Herman Morris, is a master sergeant in the U.S. Army Reserves serving overseas in Iraq. Priest hasn't seen his dad since he was home on leave back in June, but we tracked down Sergeant Morris in Iraq, and the U.S. Army was good enough to have him record a message. And when Priest arrived at the stadium tonight, we showed him that message.
I am Master Sergeant Herman Morris of the 13th COSCOM, stationed in Balad, Iraq. I'd like to say to Priest Anthony Holmes, are you ready for some football? Yeah. A short message to Priest: lean forward in the foxhole, move forward in a positive direction. I'd like to make a shout out to my wife Norma, my daughters Marsha, Tanya, and Stephanie, to my son-in-laws Jeff and Mike, and to all the wonderful people back in the good old USA, we give you love.
Now, Priest may not have looked emotional while watching that, but he told me on the inside he was feeling a lot, including butterflies, about seeing his dad. But Priest told me he was keeping himself together emotionally because he has a game to play. Al, he is ready for some football.
And his mates better be as well, because they don't want to go, obviously, 0-4. And then if they do, they're off next week. So you can't even come back 6 days later. They're going to have 13 days off. Lawrence Tynes, who won the place kicking and kickoff job from Morton Anderson in training camp to kick off, and the rookie B.J. Sams out of McNeese State to run it back before an already raucous crowd, all standing. And here we go from Baltimore, the conclusion of week 4. Sams, the rookie, takes it at the 7-yard line and brings it back up to the 33-yard line, tackled there by Shenard Hartz. And let's take a look at the starting offense for the Baltimore Ravens.
Kyle Bullard, California.
Jamal Lewis, University of Tennessee. Alan Ricord, they meet Louisiana.
Randy Holmes, Lead, Grambling State.
Kevin Johnson, Syracuse.
Terry Jones, Alabama.
Jonathan Ogden, UCLA.
Edwin Mulitalo, Arizona.
Casey Robach, Wisconsin.
Benny Anderson, Tennessee State.
Orlando Brown, South Carolina State University.
That is an offense that is missing 3 starters. Wideout Travis Taylor, the tight end Todd Heap, great receiver, and the center Mike Flynn. They start from the 32. A little toss back to Lewis. A lot of room, a first down. And what a way to begin for the Ravens. An 18-yard pickup for a guy coming off a 180-yard performance last week against Cincinnati.
It's an interesting defense here. The Chiefs were in a 4-4, 4 linebackers, but you see what they did? They were all packed in there because they expected Jamal Lewis to run to the inside. They kept the defense packed to the inside, and then boom, he was out in that corner and off for a first down.
There may be a few booms tonight from Jamal, who averaged better than 10 yards per carry last week, career high in any one game against Cincinnati. This time they give it to him through the middle. Now let's take a look at the Kansas City defense.
Eric Hicks, Maryland.
Ryan Sims, North Carolina.
Lionel Dalton, Detroit Cooley High School. John Browning, Miami, Florida.
Scott Fujita, University of California.
Monty Bison, Kansas State.
Sean Barber, Spiders of Richmond.
Eric Warfield, Nebraska.
Greg Wesley, Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Jerome Woods, Memphis.
Dexter McLeon, Clemson.
And the onus really on those guys tonight, a defense that kept all of the guys from last season despite finishing near the bottom of the league. And then Bowler has no place to go here. The secondary does its job. So, John, we brought it out during the preseason. Kansas City finishing near the bottom of the league, but they decided, let's re-sign all of our guys. They fired the defensive coordinator, Greg Robinson, and said the only change we'll make is to bring in Gunther Cunningham as the defensive coordinator.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I think it was probably a mistake not to hire Gunther Cunningham, but, you know, to keep all the same guys. I mean, they were a bad defense a year ago, and they kept the same guys. So you're starting off the year with a bad defense. 3rd down and 8 now. Bowler throws, caught. Randy Himes makes the catch, and Himes takes it for a first down. The 3rd-year receiver out of Grambling State, 11 yards, and getting to play because of the injury to Travis Taylor. Himes is a good-looking athlete, isn't he? He's big. He's 6'3". He's tall, and once he gets inside on that slant, right there, he's a good target for Bowler. That's what you have to do on that slant. Again, you win that battle at the line of scrimmage, and when you get inside the corner's inside shoulder, you have a completion. He's their leading receiver. That's his 13th catch of the season. And on the outside goes Lewis, but he's tracked down by the middle linebacker, Monty Beisel. The Ravens with a great running game, great defense, but not much through the air. Take a look at that. Last season, unprecedented for years, 1st in rushing and last in passing. This season, 2nd in rushing, last in passing. Yeah, I think that's what Brian Billick, that's the way he organizes this offense. I mean, that's what this offense is all about. It just doesn't happen that way. I think that's the way it's planned.
2nd and 11, and Boulder's going to go deep. One-on-one coverage. Warfield is there tipping it, and it's out of bounds. So Warfield is able to break up the play intended for Holmes. 3rd down and 11 coming up.
Yeah, and if you're going to take a shot, that's a great time to take a shot because you're always looking out here for man-to-man with no help. Warfield is man-to-man. He has no help out there. You see there's no safety deep, and when you get man-to-man, you have to get a step on the guy or you don't have anything, but it is worth taking a shot.
Warfield, the early season leader in picks with 3. He's the only guy in the league. 3rd down and 11, the only guy with 3. Chester Taylor now comes into the backfield, flanking Bowler, who takes this snap out of the shotgun. Taylor stays in the block. The pass caught over the middle, but the tackle is made as Terry Jones, the tight end, gets taken down by Greg Wesley. And so the Kansas City defense able to stiffen and set up 4th down and long.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Gunther Cunningham brings to this Kansas City defense is an aggressiveness. If he gets you in that 3rd and long, he's going to make you throw hot. In other words, throw to the short guy by bringing a blitz, and that's what he did on that last 3rd down play.
Matt Stover will line up to attempt a 50-yard field goal. The ball will be spotted at the 40-yard line. Stover in his 15th season in the league, and Matt Stover boots it through. Stover with the Cleveland Browns in 91 came here when the Ravens moved here, and less than 4 minutes into the game puts Baltimore on the board first. High above downtown Baltimore, right by the harbor. Gorgeous night. It was a beautiful day today. Temperature got up into the 80s. 3-0. Baltimore on top, and Wade Ritchie to kick off, and it's a bouncing ball that rolls out of bounds. So they brought Ritchie in. They put him on the roster after Stover was the place kicker, but Stover in his 15th year doesn't kick off the way Ritchie can.
Ball will be placed at the 40-yard line. 1st down.
And Jeff Triplett makes the call. Ball at the 40-yard line. Brian Billick does. Well, you know, John, you bring a guy in just to kick off, and then he kicks off out of bounds. That's as low as you can get.
And it was a funny-looking kick. You know, it wasn't a, you know, sometimes they'll kick directionally and try and get the ball between the numbers and the sideline, but that kind of looked like a line drive type of thing that was going sideways, and looked like he tried to kick it that way, but you know, again, that's what Dante Hall will do to a kicking team.
And that's the 2nd time he's done it in this young season as Priest Holmes goes through the middle, gains 8, 2nd and 2. Here's the Kansas City starting offensive 11.
Trent Green, Indiana.
Priest Holmes, Texas.
Tony Richardson, Auburn University.
Johnny Morton, USC.
Dante Hall, Texas A&M.
Tony Gonzalez, University of California.
Willie Rowe, Louisiana Tech. Brian Waters, North Texas.
Casey Wickman, Iowa.
Will Shields, Nebraska.
John Wellborn, California, Berkeley.
Wellborn, the only change from last year. They lost John Tate, free agent, went to Chicago. Wellborn came over from Philadelphia. They give it to Holmes, working behind that line. 2 carries and a 1st down in Baltimore territory as we look at the Raven defense.
Anthony Weaver, Notre Dame.
Kelly Gregg, Oklahoma.
Marcus Douglas, Howard University.
Terrell Suggs, Arizona State.
Ed Hartwell, Western Illinois.
Ray Lewis, Miami.
Davis Thomas, Southern Miss.
Chris McAllister, University of Arizona.
Ed Reed, the U. Will Dempsey, San Diego State. Gary Baxter, Baylor.
The U as in Miami. One guy you won't see defensively for the Ravens tonight is Deion Sanders. He's inactive as Green throws and the pass is incomplete. They signed Deion after he'd been gone for 3 years, had retired, had gone to CBS, and then Deion, and there he is. They thought he'd be able to play tonight. He tweaked his hamstring last week, sat out after he tweaked it 2 weeks ago, and they thought he'd be ready tonight, but not so, John.
Yeah, I was at practice on Saturday, and he was out there. He was a nickelback, and he was getting ready to play, but just watching him run, he didn't do anything any more than half speed if he did it half speed. So he wasn't ready on Saturday, and I kind of thought unless something miraculous happens on Sunday or Monday, there's no way he would be able to play.
Their next game is Sunday at Washington. Over the middle and wide open underneath is the tight end, the other tight end, Jason Dunn. When you say Kansas City tight end, automatically you think of Gonzalez. The other one is Dunn, and that's 17 yards on a 1st down off a 2nd and 10.
and Jason Dunn is kind of the blocking tight end. What they did is they're going to blitz Ray Lewis. They're going to bring him, so you're going to see that is an area right behind where he blitzed from is a vacated area. And that's a place that they hit the crossing tight end. You see, Ray Lewis comes, and Dunn comes right in behind where Ray Lewis aligned.
Now Priest Holmes is back in, tries to get to the outside, and coming in to break up the play, Adalys Thomas. Thomas took the extra syllable out of his name. He's now emerging, and he finally went to the Ravens PR guys. He said, I'm not Adalys anymore. I'm Adalys Thomas.
And he's an interesting player, too, and he allows this Raven defense, I think, to, play that three-man line and go to a four-man line because he's big. I mean, he's like a 265, 270-pound linebacker. So he can be a linebacker, or he can get down and play as a defensive lineman.
Went to Brett Favre School, Southern Miss, second down and 11. Here's Holmes, and Holmes gets taken down, and you knew Ray Lewis would get into the picture sooner or later. You knew it would be sooner as well.
It's interesting. Dick Vermeil was saying that the best thing to do to Ray Lewis is to run right at him because he's the best pursuer in football and tackler. Here's Ray Lewis here. They say they're going to run right at him. Well, if you're going to run right at him, you better block him. They wanted to get a center or guard on him. They did, and Ray Lewis is a very, very sure tackler.
Third down and 9 at the 31. Baltimore on top, 3-0 as we approach the halfway mark of the first period. Green down the sideline and hooking up with Johnny Morton, who makes the catch inbounds at the 12-yard line, one-on-one with Raymond Walls, and a gain of 19.
That's where Dion, in fact, when I was at practice the other day, Dion practiced at this position where Walls is. And you see Johnny Morton has a man-to-man right there, and he just throws it right up over his inside shoulder. Walls doesn't look back at all. Johnny Morton does, and makes a heck of a catch.
Chiefs in the red zone, where they've been the best in the league over the last 2 seasons. This year, after 3 games, they are 6th in the red zone. Holmes started to slip as Reed comes up at the 10-yard line to take him down. Gain of a couple. There it is in 2002. Tops in the league, as was the case. And you look at that percentage, that's a touchdown, not field goals and touchdowns. More than 3 times every 4 forays into the red zone, they get into the end zone, and Al Saunders is the offensive coordinator.
But last week, I thought they lost the game in the red zone. They went for it on 4th down once, and they didn't get it. They got down there on the 2-yard line and threw an interception and a 103-yard return.
Marcus Coleman of Houston, and that was the game turner as they lost to the Texans. 2nd and 8. Green's going to pack it in and slides to a stop. Where he begins the slide is where they put the ball down. Suggs was coming up, so you don't get the extra yardage. You don't get the point to which you slide. It's when you start to slide, so he's shy of the first.
And more in today's football, the quarterback has to be able to do this. We're seeing right here from Skycam exactly what Trent Green sees. And when he gets out there, he looks to see if he can throw it. He wants to throw it as long as he can. Then he gets to a point that he has to put it down and run with it.
3rd down and a short 2, and Dick Vermeil is going to take a timeout. 3rd and a short 2. Timeout. Kansas City. Baltimore on top. 3-0.
Well, it looked as though Trent Green could not hear the call inside his helmet. It's really noisy down here, but it also looked like there was interference to his helmet call. Al?
What'd you say?
Exactly.
We can't hear ourselves. The decibel level is over 100.
This is where the Chiefs love to go to Tony Gonzalez.
3rd and 2, and they go to the other tight end, Dunn. So it's the other tight end, Dunn, who makes 2 big catches. They took the timeout. It was 3rd down, a yard and a half, short 2, and Dunn over the middle gets into the end zone. Well, maybe for the Chiefs, they can turn it around in the sense they have led. They've taken the lead in all 3 games and lost. Tonight they fall behind, and now they have the lead.
Well, that's what they do to Tony Gonzalez. They're going to double him. They know that this is where they want to go. They want to go to Gonzalez. They're not going to let Tony Gonzalez get the ball, but in doing so, they leave Jason Dunn wide open.
Lawrence Tynes for the point after, and a very impressive 10-play, 60-yard drive. With 6:13 to go in the period. 7-3 Kansas City. You know about Brett Favre's concussion yesterday. He had to come out, but it looks promising for him. So it should be Favre and McNair, Green Bay, Tennessee next Monday, as the kickoff is taken by B.J. Sams. And the Raven rookie brings that one back out to the 34-yard line. That's where the Ravens and Bowler go to work, with Kansas City up by 4 early in Baltimore. That very youthful-looking 47-year-old man, Bob Bowler, father of Kyle Bowler, who's 23 years old. They're from California. They grew up in Southern California. Kyle did. That's where Bob raised the family. Then he went to Cal, and they give it to Kevin Johnson, who takes it on the end around to the 35-yard line. So Bowler comes in. He gets drafted. He's the 19th pick overall in the 2003 draft. They give him the starting job last year, and he performed all right from time to time, and then he got hurt about midway through the season, and that just about did him in.
He told me that he learned a lot after that, you know, standing on the sidelines, because he said when he was playing, he said he really didn't know what he was doing. He'd just look at the safeties and try and read. He never read fronts, never read linebackers. He said the game was real fast. He said now this year he understands defenses. He can read, and he's slowed down in the pocket.
Play fake. He gets chased, throws, and then it is dropped by Terry Jones. It was right there. Jones had it in the numbers and couldn't hold on. And Terry Jones is seeing a lot of action because of the injury to Todd Heap, who figures to be out for another couple of weeks.
And Kyle Bowler really misses Todd Heap because he's his go-to guy. That was a perfect pass. And this is another thing the Ravens are trying to do with Bowler this year, is move him a little. You know, he's not one of those running type of quarterbacks, but they want him to run some, to run for some first downs, and to also run and throw it.
3rd and 10. They have Chester Taylor now in as the running back. The fake to him. Bowler over the middle. It's a wobbly pass that might have been tipped the way it came off his hand, and it was. And so it's a very quick 3 and out for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and that's what they don't want from this offense. That's why, you know, it's such a ball control offense. Run Jamal Lewis, get first downs, take time off the clock, rest your defense, those kinds of things that they just didn't do there.
Dante Hall last year, his first 3 games. This year, averaging only 14 yards per punt return. Last year, 4 runbacks for touchdowns, and he ran one back in the game here last year. That was the difference in the game. This is a high floating kick that is fair caught by Dante Hall at the 24-yard line. So with 5:08 to go in the period, Kansas City with a 4-point lead and the ball as you look at Baltimore Harbor. The road to meet the Washington Redskins on Sunday night, 8:30 p.m. And welcome back to Mike Patrick, who underwent surgery, and he'll be back in the booth next Sunday night. Down the road go the Baltimore Ravens. 1st and 10 at the 24-yard line for the Kansas City Chiefs, as Green on a short drop may have had that one tipped. He was under pressure. There's a flag down. Only the 2nd penalty called tonight for the referee Jeff Triplett's crew.
Pass interference, defense, number 21. Automatic first down.
That's Chris McAllister, the Pro Bowl cornerback. Automatic first, and that is out to the 33-yard line.
If you look at Chris McAllister, he's right here in the play. I didn't see that he did anything. The only thing is, I guess that he had his hands on the receiver while the ball was in the air, because I was in that legal 5-yard area, and I was kind of watching. I mean, it wasn't something that was blatant.
Brian Billick's calling him over. I'm wondering if this has to do with the spot of the ball.
Baltimore is challenging the ruling on the field.
Or that it was tipped.
Ball was tipped.
Yeah, the way that ball came off, I think I called it on the play-by-play as it may have been tipped. That is reviewable. The interference call is not reviewable. If they had marked the ball at the wrong spot on the field, that would be reviewable. A tip ball is also reviewable.
Yeah, see, and that's what they had to call on McAllister, because he did have his hands on him when the ball was in the air. It had to be tipped the way it went. I mean, it looked like it fell off a table.
Yeah.
Let's see if Ray Lewis hits it. He's coming straight up the middle. I don't know if he got it with his right hand or not.
So far, I'm not sure either replay's been conclusive. And I'm not sure that one is either. I think that may have gone under his arm, and it was almost like Green threw a sinker. Like a split finger here.
That's right, because I don't think anyone tips that ball. And it looks like to me the pass interference should have been on Gary Baxter, because he was on his receiver, and that was a receiver that Trent Green was throwing to. I think maybe he just, as he starts to let that ball go, I think he changes his mind, and he tries to change where the ball's going.
Never a good idea. But here he may have gotten away with it, because if it was tipped, it would be 2nd and 10. And again, remember, the call on the field was that the ball was not tipped, so the referee Triplett would have to see definitively that the ball was tipped, and he's shaking his head.
And it's a 9-yard penalty, and you wonder with such a strong defense why you would use up a challenge on this unless you really knew that it was right.
Yeah, that's a good point too. 9 yards first half. It's going to cost you, not that the timeout's a big deal, but now you're down to 1 challenge.
Yeah, I think that was a Trent Green air throw. But it looked like there was pass interference by both guys, because
after reviewing the play, the pass was not touched by the defense. Therefore, the ruling on the field stands. Baltimore is charged their first timeout and their first challenge.
You could see where Billick thought it, just the way the ball came. Didn't Vermeil told us last night on that interception returned by Coleman last week, 102 yards. He said the ball came out of his hand funny on that play as well.
Right. Yeah, and again, you see the red line. That's a 5-yard chuck. Now, again, that rule doesn't come into play once the ball's in the air. Once the ball is in the air, then you go to pass interference where you can't touch the guy.
Green on first down. Out here to Dunn. Dunn had caught 1 pass in 3 games. That was a touchdown pass last week against Houston. Now he's already caught 3 tonight, including 1 touchdown. And he has picked up a total of 24 yards through the air.
Well, you know, the way everyone's defending the Kansas City Chiefs in the passing game is you defend Priest Holmes coming out of the backfield and Tony Gonzalez. And they don't think their wide receivers can beat them. So what the Chiefs are doing now is they're going to bunch, and they're also going to 2 tight ends and letting that second tight end do some damage.
There's an inactive Eddie Kennison, who missed a lot of preseason, inactive tonight. And there is Holmes taking it about a yard shy of the first down. It'll be 3rd down and 1, and a flag comes in at the end of the play.
Well, the last guy that we saw was Terrell Suggs hitting Tony Gonzalez, but you don't know who started it. That's the old deal. Who started, or who did the officials see first? But when they threw the flag, it was Suggs hitting Gonzalez. The guy that, puts his hands up in the air and starts shaking his head and saying, "Not me."
After the play is over, personal foul, blow to the head, number 55, unnecessary roughness of the defense. That's a 15-yard penalty and an automatic first down.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm sure that's what Mike Noah is talking to Suggs about, is we want you to play aggressively, we want you to be tough, we want you to be all those things, but don't be stupid. And that's stupid if you hit a guy like that in the head. And what Gonzalez did is he gave him a little push. Suggs just kind of turned around, and there he was. It didn't look blatant to me, did it to you?
No, it didn't look blatant, but they're going to take him out of the game, at least for 1 play. The ball at the 43-yard line as Green goes back. Eschews the screen and then throws, and that's caught at the 38-yard line. And a flag comes down at the end of this play. But that's Jason Dunn's 4th catch in about 11 minutes.
I think some of the others were planned. That one wasn't planned. As you said, they were trying to throw a screen pass. It was covered.
Downfield. Number 77 of the offense. It's a 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
Yeah, that's what happens when you improvise. Willie Rofe went downfield.
Right, and that's not his fault. I mean, Willie Rofe is expecting a screen pass. He's timing a screen pass, and then when the screen pass is covered, the quarterback scrambles and goes someplace else. Willie Rofe is still playing screen pass that never did materialize. And everything is happening behind him. That is not his fault. Spoken like an old tackle, Al. You got to stand up for those offensive linemen.
Yes, you do. Willie Rofe 9 times to Hawaii. 1st and 15 from the 48. Draw And Kelly Gregg reads that perfectly, and we have Ray Lewis mic'd up. Well, listen.
Desperate people do desperate things.
So they gonna do something desperate tonight.
Confident people believe in their foundation.
That's what Dion and Ray Lewis were talking about. You know, expect anything when an 0-3 team comes in. They're not just going to stay vanilla.
Between Dion and Lewis, they've got two pretty good sermonizers. 2nd and 14 from the 47-yard line. And that is caught by Gonzalez. And Tony is able to take the ball to the 35-yard line. Forced out there by Cornell Brown. That's a gain of 13 yards. It'll be 3rd down and 2 when they line up.
That's a good way to get the ball to Tony Gonzalez on a crossing pattern. He starts on the left and comes from the left to the right. You see him over here. He's going to come here and just come across the field. You see, and you get under that. When he gets under that second linebacker, Trent Green knows that he has him.
3rd down, call it 1. The ball gets spotted at the 34-yard line. A long one, 2.5 minutes to go, and Green's going to take another timeout. So that's the 2nd timeout taken by Kansas City here in the first half. Trent Green played his college football at Indiana, was selected by San Diego in the draft back in the early 90s, and then just sat on the bench. He was inactive. He went to Canada, didn't play there. Then Trent Green winds up going to Washington, and he just sits on the bench. So here's a guy, we figured it out last night. He had been in uniform for 83 professional football games, including the 2 in Canada, and did not throw a single pass.
Yeah, but some good has to come out of that. And Trent Green, you wonder, you know, how you stayed with it. I mean, you know, persistence. You have to stay. If you want to be a professional football player, you just have to wait for your opportunity. He did. But he said one of the big things he learned is when he had a headset on, he heard Norv Turner. He heard how he called the plays, what he was thinking, and he said that helped him more than anything when he got his opportunity.
3rd down and 1, and now making his 52nd straight start. He gives it to Holmes. So here's a guy who doesn't play for 83 games, then makes 52 consecutive starts. A little more about Trent Green.
The one word that defines me is persistent. I would love to meet Colin Powell. My hidden talent is I can roll my stomach. And I'm not going to show you. My favorite cartoon is SpongeBob SquarePants. Will Ferrell makes me laugh so hard it hurts. When it touches my lips, it just tastes so good.
Well, he's not going to meet Colin Powell tonight, but Michael Powell, the FCC commissioner, is here tonight.
Yeah, I saw you talking to him earlier.
In fact,
there's another timeout.
2-on-1. So that's the end of the timeout situation for Kansas City. So they're out of timeouts. That's not that big a deal in the first half, but what is a pretty big deal is if you don't have a timeout, you can't challenge.
Well, the
so
other
they
thing
can't challenge a play.
A big deal is you shouldn't have that much confusion. I mean, you've had mini camps in April and May and June, and you got the training camp in July, and you played 4 preseason games. You come in at your 4th game, you ought to know what you're doing. I mean, and again, sometimes I think we get so complicated trying to get so many packages and this group in and that group in and that play that we don't watch the clock. And I think clock management in this league right now is atrocious.
Well, you know, I thought it was atrocious, and then it got better, and now it's back to being fairly atrocious again. And, you know, of course, we're not singling out the Washington Redskins, but 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, and right here in the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, they had to take a timeout after they just took a timeout.
Right.
What the heck did you do during that timeout that you had to take another timeout?
1st and 10 from the 31-yard line. And they give the ball to Johnny Morton after it looked like Holmes was going to take it through the middle. And Johnny Morton takes the ball to the 27-yard line with 1.5 minutes to go in the opening quarter.
You see Will Shields on that. You know, we talk about things that are good about Kansas City, and it's their offensive line. And they're not big old heavy guys. I mean, they got all guys that can move. And on that play, if you're going to run a reverse, watch Will Shields here, the left guard. He starts here, delays a little, and then makes contact in the open field. You know, it's something to run out there and be out there, but to be out there and get on a corner, you have to have something special.
And now they cut it back with Tony Richardson, fullback, carries the the ball occasionally. Tony Richardson that's only his second carry of the season.
I said earlier that this is the best offensive line in football, and watch the push that they get. They all get off in the ball together. They kind of zone block this thing, but they get those Ravens going back.
3rd down and 2, final half minute of the opening quarter. Most of the crowd on its feet. Ravens looking for a key stop here. Green gets protected well, and that's knocked down by the ball-hawking safety Ed Reed, and sets up a field goal attempt for Kansas City.
And Ed Reed is that exactly, a ball hawker. He's one of those guys that reads a quarterback, and then when the quarterback throws the ball, he really gets a jump on it. That time, he was on Tony Gonzalez. So you take one of your best defensive players and put him on their best offensive player.
41-yard attempt for Lawrence Tynes, who was born in Scotland, the man who replaced the man born in Denmark, Morton Anderson, who's now with Minnesota, and that kick is good. So the Kansas City Chiefs against the Baltimore Ravens, a team that hadn't given up a point in the first quarter this season, take a 10-3 lead. The big story, of course, in Baltimore this week deals with Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis, many of you who follow football knew, was arrested on a federal drug charge over the summer regarding an incident that took place before he came into the National Football League. He was charged with conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute 5 kilograms of cocaine and using a cell phone in violation of federal law. The trial was scheduled in Atlanta on November 1st, still is, but apparently a plea bargain agreement has been reached pending the judge's decision. And what we hear, the speculation is that Lewis will go down to Atlanta, plead guilty on Thursday, and accept a plea bargain which apparently will include about a 4 to 6 month jail sentence. Tidily, that works out for the Ravens because it'll be in the offseason, but he is then subject to discipline by the National Football League. And the speculation there in regard to the NFL is that he will get a suspension. What I'm hearing from our sources is from 2 to 4 games, and it will take place fairly soon. Probably not next Sunday night, but maybe following their bye week after that. Might cost them games against Buffalo and Philadelphia. That seems to be the best information in regard to Lewis right now. But here's a guy who's obviously distracted and has been all season. Sam's up past the 30, the 40, and out of bounds to the 50-yard line. In regard to that, here was Ray Lewis talking to Jamal Lewis before the game.
Nothing else matters. All right? Put your court case and everything on your shoulders. All right? That's the way I roll with mine. Put it on your shoulders, all right? Play with your energy. Play with your energy. Let's go.
Ray would know.
I'll tell you, Ray did know, and Jamal Lewis last week played that way when he had a 186-yard, 75-yard touchdown run
against Cincinnati. First down from the 46-yard line. And here is Jamal Lewis, and they'll take it up to the 48, and that'll take us to the end of the first quarter. At the end of the quarter, the Kansas City Chiefs, in desperate need of their first win of the season, lead the Baltimore Ravens 10-3. And Monday Night Football from Baltimore continues after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Back to Baltimore we come. Al Michaels, John Madden, Michelle Tafoya, Dick Vermeil, the oldest coach in the league, Brian Billick. Each guy has won a Super Bowl. Billick in his 6th season here. Vermeil winning it with the Rams following the '99 campaign. Billick here in the 2000 season. Lewis goes to the outside on the first play of the period. He's thrust out of bounds. And just one other thing about Jamal Lewis. The reason he has plea bargain, he contends he's innocent. He didn't want to go to trial because the downside of that trial, because of the federal guidelines, had he been found guilty, it was a minimum 10-year prison term or career ending for him. So anyway, Jamal Lewis, plenty on his mind. Paul Tagliabue will issue whatever decision comes down. After that, the commissioner is here tonight, and Lewis comes out of the game here on 3rd down and 7. Chester Taylor is in the game. Bowler, pocket, breaking down. Now he has to run to the sideline, tries to turn it upfield, and gets taken down as he crosses the 50-yard line, about 3 yards shy of the first down.
Kyle Bowler had a run on that one, didn't get a first down, so they get another 3 and out. The defense doesn't get the rest. But I'll tell you, one guy that is an excellent player. Watch this left tackle here, Jonathan Ogden. I mean, he is just built in a pass-protecting position. Holy moly. You see Terry Jones? Whew. That'll open up your sinuses.
Take the plaque and the calculus right off the molars. Dave Zastidal to punt. Floats it up there, and Hall has to fair catch it at the 17. Kansas City and Green go to work there early second quarter. Kansas City leading Baltimore 10-3.
Shake, let it go.
Back we come to M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, where the baseball season ended across the parking lot at Oriole Park, Hamden Yards yesterday. Week 4 of the football season concludes tonight. Trent Green with the flag thrown on the snap, going deep down the left sideline, and Johnny Morton was the intended receiver, covered by Chris McAllister.
And they put Chris McAllister, their best corner, on who they think is the best receiver of the other team. And that, of course, is Johnny Morton.
Illegal shift, offense. 2 men moving, and the team did not get set. The 5-yard penalty, still first down.
1st and 15. Here's Michelle.
Well, you saw the Chiefs take all 3 of their timeouts in that first quarter, Al. I checked with a member of the staff who told me it was a different circumstance every time. A combination of noise, important downs, but apparently no equipment failures on the Chiefs sideline, Al.
But all 3 are gone. And they were gone with a couple of minutes left in the first period. 1st and 15 right now. Holmes. Thomas makes him cut back inside, and he gets up to the 14-yard line. Nice job to seal off the outside by Adalys Thomas. Priest Holmes, who played here, remember he came up with Baltimore. He was an undrafted free agent out of Texas. First 50 games with a team, 65 touchdowns. Marshall Faulk, who of course started his career with Indianapolis, scored 64 in his first 50 in St. Louis. Yards from scrimmage, and there it is. Marshall catches a lot more passes than does Priest. 2nd and 13. Holmes. Change of pace move to the 19, tackled by Will Demps.
Well, the Chiefs got a break on that one. Willie Roaf, the left tackle, was going to pull, and he kind of gave it away. He started to lean to his left or pull before the ball was snapped. So he kind of came back, and then he reset it, and he pulled, and you could tell everyone was pointing that the ball was coming to that. Watch the left tackle here. It was before that where he moved and then reset, and you knew that he was going to pull because he started to pull once, then reset, and then came back again.
3rd and 7. This defensive-oriented team, this crowd rises every time the defense is out there, and the opposition has a 3rd down. Suggs gets taken out of the play. The pass thrown into a lot of traffic, and Reed got a hand on it to knock it away. He says, nope. Ed Reed, who has 14 picks in his first 35 career games, and that's a pretty good ratio. So 4th down.
Yeah, it's not only the 3rd down, but I think it's a position on the field. They know that, they have them backed up. They're going to get good field position, and they're going to make as much noise for Trent Green as they can. Hey, that was good coverage there. I mean, you talk about throwing into a zone or a zone reacting to a ball. They had 3 guys right there.
Now, Jason Baker, who was with him in preseason, was cut, came back, has that one fair caught by B.J. Sams at the 43-yard line. 3 minutes into the second quarter in Baltimore. Chiefs 10, Ravens 3. Baltimore has the ball. They trail by 7. Jim Fossil, who coached the Giants for several years, fired at the end of last year and winds up as a senior consultant with the offense here. And Jamal Lewis is going to throw it back to Bowler, and Bowler's going to go deep and lays it out there right into the arms of Randy Hines for a touchdown. 57 yards.
Mr. Cunningham, the defensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs last night, said, we know that Brian Billick is going to have a trick play for us. This is a form of a flea flicker, except that Jamal Lewis started to the outside, threw it back to Kyle Bowler, and that let Hines get deep downfield. Watch Randy Hines here. You see he gives a little stop and go, and then Bowler just has to get it out there where no defender can get it. Tell you, the safeties came up. Both safeties bit on that run, and then he was able to get it over their head.
Himes beats him. Bowler throws it about 60 yards in the air, and the game is tied. Kyle Bowler takes it back from Lewis and then throws it to Himes. Himes with his second touchdown of his career. The first came last week. And now the kickoff floats into the hands of Dante Hall at the 2-yard line. Hall picking and threading, but the coverage is very good. And he's taken down at the 20-yard line. Corey Fuller made the tackle.
Watch the effect. Watch the safeties here. When Jamal Lewis gets the ball and starts, both of these safeties come up and bite, and then Himes is able to get right behind him. You see him come up with a run fake, and there goes Himes right here. Here come the safeties chasing him. Now that's what you try and get. You know, you try and get the fake of the run or to try and get those safeties up. Jamal Lewis does it, gets those safeties up, gets a ball back to Kyle Bowler, and there's Randy Himes wide open.
There's Dad.
The old fireman.
That ball covered 56 yards in the air. There's Wesley who gets beat. The game is tied. Woods, he got beat as well. Ball at the 21-yard line. First down for Kansas City. Crowd roaring again after that last play. And now Priest Holmes will try to still them a little bit, taking it to the 29-yard line where he's tackled by Gary Baxter.
That's one thing I think that the Chiefs have to get to now is take a little time off this clock, let their defense rest. Their defense is really playing pretty well. Let their defense rest, get a first down or two here, you know, and then keep them fresh, because it's not a real good defense, but you want to keep them as fresh as you can.
Holmes, who last week became Kansas City's all-time leading rusher, eclipsing the mark held by Christian Okoye, the Nigerian Nightmare. Interesting story with Holmes. I mean, here's a kid who goes to Texas because of a knee injury. He wasn't drafted. Baltimore gets him. Played pretty well here, but they had Jamal Lewis, and then they let him go. He winds up in Kansas City and winds up as the leading career rusher for the franchise.
Yeah, and last year, remember when we saw him in the preseason and he was coming off that hip injury the year before? I didn't think he'd be able to play.
A lot of people didn't. And that pass is caught by Chris Horn. Horn beats Baxter and is able to reel it in at about the 29-yard line, but there's a flag down for holding.
62 of the offense. 2-yard penalty. Still first down.
That's the center, Casey Wigman.
Chris Horn did exactly what he had to do. He got man-to-man on Gary Baxter out there. Trent Green did exactly what he had to do, and the offensive line didn't. They got caught holding. Right there. See, it was Casey Wegman. See, he got beat, and his guy starts to the outside, and then he went and tackled him. Chris Horn makes a good move. It was kind of a stop and go where he kind of stuttered, got Baxter to come up, and then ran right by him.
Wasted play. 1st and 20 now from the 22. And Holmes, but you could feel Lewis. I mean, you see him and you feel him. He's hard to miss, I guess, if you're running the football.
Well, and they didn't block him. I mean, that was the thing. Dick Vermeil says we always have to have a center or a guard on him. And when you get no one on him, this is what's going to happen. You know, his coach is Mike Singletary, and he said, you know, that he's been a good player. He wants to be the best middle linebacker that ever played. And he said he's learning so much from Mike Singletary.
And as you said before, he's tough to run away from. You can run right at him. You run away, he's going to hunt you down. 2nd down and 20 from the 22-yard line. Flag again. Green gets hit as he throws to Richardson. Penalty at the snap.
You know, one of the things I was asking Ray Lewis the other day, what he learned from Mike Singletary. And
illegal shift, offense number 82. Two men moving and did not get sacked. The 5-yard penalty. Correction. They decline that penalty. It'll be third down.
And there's Mike Singletary right there, and he said he learned how to key. You know that. Remember Singletary, the way he'd always be looking through, and you know what you look at. And he said, you really look at nothing. You feel the middle three guys and just to the outside shoulder of the back. So he said you don't look at anything, but you see everything. And your first move is what he calls a pop. You know, he just moves both feet, just pops both feet.
You can see Ray Lewis was bloody. His nose is bloody. It's 3rd and 16, and the catch is made by Gonzalez, who is able to spin around and pick up the first down. He was about 2 yards shy when he hauled it in, and then picks up the extra 4 to move the chains. Great play by Gonzalez, and you can tell how exorcised Village is.
Right, because you know it's coming. You know, you say the tight end, any third down play, you have to get on Gonzalez. There's Ray Lewis. He should have closed earlier. Ed Reed, who has a man-to-man, has to come up there. Now you have to make the tackle. I mean, if the guy catches the ball in front of you and it's 3rd and long, he may catch it, but then you have to tackle him, not let him get a first down.
18 yards on the 3rd down and 16. Green buys time with the fake. Falls one to the outside. That's caught at the 44-yard line. Dante Hall makes his first catch of the night, and Hall, who would normally be a receiver who would come in special situations, has to play more tonight because of the injuries at the wideout spots. Here's Michelle.
Well, you guys were talking about Mike Singletary, and I spoke with him too about Ray Lewis, and he said what makes Ray unique is a lot of players will come to the sideline after they're on the field and know what's happening to them. But when Ray Lewis comes to the sideline, he can articulate to the coaches and all the other players what's happening all over the field, and that's a unique asset for the coaches. And as you said, Ray wants to be great, and Singletary said he has about 10 pounds left to go to be great.
1st and 10. Holmes. You know, John, I think about, you know, what Michelle is saying, and I've always admired the athletes in sports who do know what everybody else is doing. It's almost like, you know, a catcher in baseball has the whole field in front of him, knows what everybody's doing. But in every sport, you can say there's always a guy who knows what everybody's supposed to be doing.
Every great one does. I mean, you know, you can't know your job if you don't know everyone's job. And I remember I had Art Shell, and he was the best at. Art Shell is my left tackle. He not only knew what he did, he knew what the whole offensive line did. He knew the receivers, he knew what everyone did on every play.
2nd and 5, ball to the 30-yard line. Holmes picks up the first down. Ray Lewis mic'd up again.
It's going to take 2 of y'all. It's going to take 2 of y'all. It's going to take 2 of y'all.
Those 2 are Willie Rowe and Tony Richardson. Richardson said, we're going to be there all night.
Still bleeding is Lewis. First down from the 30-yard line. Green again buying time off that fake and then throws, and the pass is incomplete. Good coverage deep. Chris Horn, the intended receiver.
I think he had Tony Gonzalez. In fact, I was watching Chris Horn and Tony Gonzalez, and Horn was going into the post. Gonzalez was going up the sideline. I thought he was going to throw to Tony Gonzalez because I thought he was wide open. But we see one thing up here. Trent Green sees another one down there. But let's see. Here's Tony Gonzalez right here. Yeah, he was wide open. You could have thrown that ball in the end zone.
2nd down and 10. Ball at the 30-yard line. Again, that play action buying a lot of time for him, and that's caught by Dante Hall. That'll be a first down inside the 20. So Kansas City back in the red zone, tackled by Ed Reed. And that's Scott Fujita, the Kansas City linebacker, who goes back to the locker room.
That was an interesting pass there. It was just a 2-man pattern, and that was one of the things Dick Vermeil was telling me down in the field before the game, that to get the ball to the wide receivers, they want to first run play action pass. And they think that then they can have an advantage. That and this bunch right here. So they want to do a lot of that bunch look tonight.
And run away from the bunch with Holmes. Priest gets it to the 12-yard line. Ray Lewis is there to make the tackle with less than 5.5 to go in the opening half.
You know what impresses me about this drive, Al, is they had the bad luck. They make a long completion, and there's a holding on Wigman in the play, and you get set back. And most teams, you know, they kind of just give up and run a draw or something. But these guys stayed with it, and they fought themselves out of a hole. And these are the types of things I think that an 0-3 team has to do to get out of their spin.
And that's coming off giving up a touchdown and picking up an 18-yard gain on the 3rd and 16. But this is Brian Waters for the false start.
54, the offense, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
Fifth penalty to be assessed against Kansas City.
One thing Dick Vermeil said and really didn't have to say is that his team's not going to quit, and he's not going to quit either. And I don't think anyone that knew either his team or Dick Vermeil ever thought that they would.
No. Second down and 9, the ball at the 17-yard line. Green to the end zone, too high. Intended for Chris Horn running the post, and Gary Baxter is there for the coverage.
Chris Horn is an interesting guy, isn't he? I think that any professional football league that there is or has been, Chris Horn has played in. You talk about persistence. I mean, he's been in leagues and gone to schools I never even heard of.
Europe, yeah, went to Rocky Mountain. Was on the practice squad.
Played in the Arena League. Played in Europe.
Some other league up in an indoor league up in the Montana area. This is Green. Play breaks down, and Green's going to pick up the first down and really take a shot at the 6-yard line. Remember, you're fair game unless you slide, and that's Will Demps whacking him, but Green gets up without even a grimace.
I'll tell you, Trent Green is a tough guy, and let's watch from Skycam, and you'll see what he sees. He has to step up in the pocket. There's no one to throw to. He feels pressure from the left. Now that clock that the quarterback has to have in his head goes off, and he says, I have to get the heck out of here. Yeah, that's about 13 plays on this drive, I think.
Second rushing first down of the season for Green. He gives the ball to Holmes, and Priest hurdles into the end zone. And so Holmes, a former Raven, gives KC the lead again. And what a very impressive drive for a team that gives up a 7-point lead on a trick play and then comes back, overcomes the 3rd and 16, overcomes penalties, and they have the lead again.
That's his offensive line. See how they all move in unison? This is just a zone play, a lead by the fullback, and Priest Holmes just gets right in there behind him. 14 plays on that drive, 8 runs and 6 passes.
Good balance. It took more than half the quarter, an 8-minute drive for them. 8:08 is the total time on the drive. And with 3:42 to the half, it's Kansas City up 17-10 over the Baltimore Ravens. Barb will be ready to play. That's what we're hearing from Green Bay. We think McNair will be ready to play, is what we're hearing from Tennessee. B.J. Sams from the 8-yard line, and the rookie gives them a little spark as he takes it up to the 48-yard line. The Baltimore Ravens got here in '96 coming from Cleveland, and that's, in terms of time, the longest touchdown drive against the Ravens since their first year in this city. 8 minutes, 8 seconds, and a very well-balanced drive, and a beautiful drive as they work on, as we saw Lewis on that last series, his cut man in his corner working on him.
That's Lou Duva, I think.
Lou would just spit on it. From the 48-yard line on first down. 3-yard gain for Lewis across the 50. Here's Michelle.
Well, Scott Fujita, the outside linebacker for Kansas City, has a sprained right ankle. His return is questionable. This defense struggling already, as we know, Al, for Kansas City. And Fujita, widely considered one of the best players on that defense, questionable for the rest of the game.
It looks like Kawika Mitchell will be the guy who will come in to replace him. They have Monty Beisel in the middle. Mitchell will move to the outside. It's second down and 7. From the 49-yard line, and here's Lewis cutting it back. And taking the ball inside the 45, a couple of yards shy, about a yard and a half shy of the first down.
You know, watch the way Jamal Lewis runs. He runs normal until he gets the ball. Then once he gets the ball, he shortens his stride. Anytime that he's in the line of scrimmage, around the line of scrimmage, he just takes short, choppy steps. And then when he gets past that second level, which he doesn't do here, he opens up again. See those short, choppy steps? So he always has his feet in the ground, so therefore he always has his power and the 245 pounds behind it.
5'11", 245, third down and 2. And that pass is knocked up into the air and incomplete. Eric Hicks batted it. So with 2:14 to go, in comes the punting group for the Baltimore Ravens.
You know, and you say this Kansas City defense isn't very good. They're playing well tonight. I mean, that's a third 3 and out. And you know this Baltimore defense has been on the field for a long time. And then when Kansas City's defense gets out there, they have stopped them on the last 3 drives.
Well, Kansas City at this point, John, have run 35 plays, and the Ravens have run 17. There's an injury timeout here for Ryan Sims. So more than twice as many plays run by Kansas City. Of course, they had that 8-minute, 8-second drive. And they've held the ball for almost 20 minutes to 8 for the Ravens.
You see how Sims got hurt? That ball was tipped up in the air, and he was the guy that goes diving for it and kind of does a belly flop. Watch him right here. Here he is right here. I mean, that's just a flop on the ground. What happens when a defensive tackle goes for a ball and they usually don't get the ball.
Yeah.
That was a belly flop.
And you can see he grabs his left hamstring as well.
Well, that was just when he exerted to get there, to get that burst to get to the ball. You can see the way he's upset that he probably did pull a hamstring. Defensive tackles usually don't make that move in a game, diving for a ball.
So Dante Hall is back to receive the punt. Dave Zastadil will put it up into the clear night air. And high enough so that Hall has to let it go. There's a flag that's thrown as the ball bounds into the end zone. There's also a fight back at the 40-yard line. Or a wrestling match anyway.
Well, there's no flag there at the fight end or wrestling match. There's only one flag, and that was the one down in the end zone. Or down by the end zone on the 20-yard line. There's old Jeff Triplett, huh, the referee?
Well, he and Orlando Brown have made acquaintances before. We can detail that a little bit later when Brown was with the Cleveland Browns.
Holding number 44 on the return team. That's a 10-yard penalty. First down.
Remember Orlando Brown, you can see, it's funny, almost on cue, he was the guy who was playing offensive tackle for Cleveland. Jeff Triplett called a penalty in '99. Flag, and it's weighted with BBs. Hits Brown in the eye. Well, here was the play. I mean, we can take a look at it. Here's Orlando Brown. And here's what happened. Watch the right tackle. Flag was called. Triplett unintentionally threw it. Brown knocked Triplett to the ground. Brown didn't play football for 3 years, sued the league. They reached the settlement, and then when he was able to come back and play, he gave some of the money back. Here's Holmes. And Holmes gets wrapped up by Adalys Thomas. Forward progress might be out to the 6, and that's it as we come to the 2-minute warning in Baltimore. Kansas City backed up, but leading in the game they have to win. 17-10 at the 2-minute warning. You know, John, you're not going to please 40 million viewers and 10,000 critics with everything you do. So we had mixed reviews last week. We looked at this thing in our production meeting this morning, and I'll tell you what, there are about 4 or 5 laugh out loud funny moments in this thing.
I think this is a laugh out louder.
This is pretty good.
They get Gary Baxter.
Yeah. Second and 13. Here's Priest Holmes taking it up to the 9-yard line, so third and long. And the Baltimore Ravens will now take a timeout to conserve the clock here. 1:53, and they still have one timeout. I remember, Cosell used to come in the Baltimore, did a lot of baseball with him. There's Joey Abenda at the controls. Drew Esikoff, Fred Godelli, the Brain Trust. Come on, Freddie. Looks like you're in the game. Get into, hunker down. That a baby.
Oh, hunker down more. Lower. Bend your knees. Head up. Drive.
3rd down and 12. 8-yard line. Holmes and Priest. Ooh, he's close to picking up the first. He's finally forced out of bounds. He worked off a Tony Richardson block. And Lewis is mic'd up again.
Nothing. All we got to do, don't worry about making a play. Beat your man and trust the defense. Oh, it's on. It's on, big boy. It's on. Come on. Will, I live for this, Will. I live for this.
Well, right now he's going to stay on the field because Priest Holmes got just enough for the first down. Priest Holmes took it right to the 20-yard line. 12 yards on a 3rd and 12, and the nose of the ball is on the chalk, and that's enough for the first down.
I'll say this, in this first half, this Kansas City offensive line, that front group, has whipped the Raven defensive front group. So Ray Lewis is talking to Will Shields. Come on, bring it on. Will Shields and him have been bringing it on. In fact, Will Shields said, you get back over on your side of the line of scrimmage.
Meanwhile, Priest Holmes has carried the ball 20 times in the first half. 20, which was his average for a full game last season. When you've got a guy carrying the ball 20 times in a half, meanwhile, they're looking at it upstairs. This is not challengeable. We're inside the final 2 minutes of the half, but they can look at the spot. So here's Holmes. The question is, they spotted the ball right on the 20. And where is he out of bounds?
And remember, it's where the ball is when his foot goes out of bounds. So it's all about the ball. And it's where the ball is. His foot is on the line. The ball is here. That's where it should be spotted. When his foot hits the line where the football is, you spot it right where the ball is.
Looks like about the 19 and a half. You can see he had the presence of mind to move it to his left hand to try to keep it in bounds as long and as far as he could. But I would suspect they've got to move it back inside the 20, because if the nose of the ball is not on the chalk at the 20-yard line, it's going to be a punting situation.
Right, then you can see right there that his foot is on the line and the ball is not.
So if they get it back, if the Ravens get it back, they'll get it back with one timeout.
After reviewing the play, the runner's foot hit out of bounds prior to making the line to gain at the 19-yard line, and the ball was at the 19. Therefore, it will be 4th down at the 19.
That was a good challenge by Brian Billick.
Well, remember, that was upstairs. That was the official.
That's right. That was a good challenge by upstairs.
Upstairs.
That was a good review by upstairs.
Very good review.
That's what I mean, that was when it looked like he had the first down, and then someone saw that he was just short. Good review, guys.
Had the Chiefs known, they would have raced to the line of scrimmage and tried to get the play off, but they didn't even know they had the first down until Triplett moved the ball out to the 20-yard line. So it's 4th down now. In to punt is Jason Baker, who's liable to do anything. This is a short end-over-end kick, 43-yard line. B.J. Sands. And this kid is electrifying this crowd tonight. And B.J. Sands with one man to beat and beats him for the touchdown. 58 yards.
Now that review just gets bigger and bigger, doesn't it?
Huge. The Ravens have found a pretty terrific run back guy. This kid looked good in preseason. He had a 63-yard punt return earlier this season. He averaged 18 yards per kickoff return coming into the game. And Matt Stover has just tied it. So 2 big plays won the pass from Bowler after he given it to Jamal Lewis, and that resulted in a touchdown. And now Sams with a 58-yard run back a la Dante Hall.
Well, first of all, it's a short kick because he catches the ball and the closest Chief to him is 10 yards away. So anytime that the first line is 10 yards away when you catch a ball, you have a good opportunity for a return. Not necessarily for a return all the way. You see him there? Watch. Here's where he catches it, and look at the line of Chiefs there. So he has that much room to make moves and to set up a side. He takes him to the right side, gets the Chiefs coming over to that side, then goes back to the left against the grain. That was poor coverage. I mean, that was a great return, but that is poor coverage.
Set up by this play right here. They were right. He clearly didn't get to the 20-yard line. And B.J. Sams in a matchup where last year Dante Hall made the difference. And Sams is able to run it all the way back for the touchdown. That is the first punt return for a touchdown in the National Football League this season. That's pretty amazing. We've already had 4 weeks of play.
And that's how you always tell that a punt is too short and not high enough, when you check when the guy catches the ball where the first line is.
90 seconds to play now in the first half, and the kick is downed in the end zone by Dante Hall. Even Dante's not going to come out with that after looking at his opposite number.
You're always talking about playmakers making plays and changing momentum. That was a playmaker changing momentum right there.
Because when you look at the numbers, I mean, Kansas City's run 38 plays. Baltimore's run only 17. Kansas City has outgained Baltimore about 2-1. Time of possession about 2-1, but those two huge plays, the Bowler pass, the Sams run back.
Kansas City's offense had this defense on the ropes.
And Holmes is taken down. Baltimore has the only timeout left in this half if they so choose here. I think they're going to let them run a play on second down and see what happens after that. Second down and 11 from the 19-yard line. Green, wobbly pass, caught. Chris Horn. It's going to be third down and 5. And the Ravens could take a timeout here, but choose not to.
I always think it's worth a shot, because you have the third down. If they don't make it, they're going to have to punt. You could go for a punt block, but Ryan Billick decides, it's 17-17. We're in pretty good shape here. Let's not do anything stupid.
Yeah, we've been backed up most of the half, but here we are in a tie game. Chiefs run the play clock down as far as they can on third down and 5. Keep it on the ground, give it to Holmes to the 28-yard line, and now they'll take a timeout because this means if the kick doesn't go out of bounds, Sams is going to have another chance at a run back.
There is one rule in football that I've always been looking for. As a coach, I always wanted to do it, that you get a free kick after a fair catch. Now, I think you'd have to have them backed up more to do this. But if you take a fair catch, if the Ravens were to fair catch the ball, they could get a free kick from that position, where your kicker could just kick the ball without any rush or anything, and if you make it, it's a field goal.
And a lot of times, if you watch kickers and they have no pressure, I mean, in practice, they'll kick them 60 to 65 yards, which means if you just put it down at like your own 45. It's a 65-yarder. I mean, it's not a gimme, but at least you have nobody rushing you, and you can run up as if you're kicking off, not as if you're place kicking.
That's what you do.
And try to put it through the uprights.
Yeah. So if there's any kind of short kick here, it would be a possibility. Nope.
Deep, but it's going to set up a run back. That man Sams again. To the 31-yard line with 2 ticks remaining. So one more play, and they'll go to the locker room. Ravens trying to go 3-1, trying to stay on top in the AFC North with the Steelers, who are also 3-1 right now. For Kansas City, well, you know the story. No wins, 3 losses, bye week coming up. Chiefs, if the Chiefs lose tonight, they will already by the 4th night of October lost more games than they lost all last season.
But just watching this Kansas City Chief team in this first half, they don't look like an 0-3 team. They didn't play in any area like an 0-3 team.
Not at all. But they're really in a fight. They're in a dogfight. Halftime. Kansas City 17. Baltimore 17. Coming up next, the halftime show, when we come back after this message from the NFL and Award from our ABC stations. Tim McGraw, ode to the 35th anniversary season of Monday Night Football, and a good one here. 17-17 at the half, and Kansas City gets the ball first. Dante Hall had 2 touchdown returns in his first 3 games last year, and won't have a chance to bring this one back as Kansas City will take over at the 20-yard line. Michelle's been busy, and here she is.
I spoke with Dick Vermeil, Al, going into halftime, and he said he's happy with his defense. Where he's not happy with his offense is their poise. He said too many penalties, no excuses. Yes, noise has been a problem, but we need to keep our poise. As for Brian Billick, he is not really happy with his offense either. He said if it weren't for the couple of trick plays we converted, our offense just hasn't been playing. We better get our act together. You're just going to see more of the same. Al, John?
Precisely, that trick play. The pass for the touchdown, and then the Sam's, not that falls into the category of trick play, but Sam's running back a punt for a touchdown, and that's kept them in the game. And Green initially escapes a sack and then finally goes down a 3-yard sack. Anthony Weaver will get the credit for it. Number 98, who comes in to clean up at the end.
Yeah, it looks like Kelly Craig came straight up the middle. He should be the nose tackle right here, and he's going to get the initial pressure. See, he starts to the outside, then he comes back inside of Wigman, and he's the first guy there that collapses the pile. And it was like a jailbreak, and Trent Green felt that pressure coming up the middle and knew that he had to get out of there to get back to the line of scrimmage.
Now on 2nd and 13, Priest Holmes had a busy first half. Picks up a hard 2 yards here. Priest Holmes has carried the ball now 23 times. First half numbers, and we were talking about it at the end of the half. Time of possession well in favor of Kansas City. I mean, they had the ball most of the time, but those 2 big plays for the Ravens, the difference in that Kansas City doesn't have the lead, and we're tied, and now it's 3rd down and long for Kansas City here.
You know, the Ravens had that first drive, then after that they only had 10 offensive plays, but 14 points.
This is Kansas City's 44th play. A near sack. Green stepping up, stepping away, throws and converts for a first down as Chris Horn makes the catch and takes it up to the 36-yard line. You know, we had that little thing with Trent Green before about what am I? A word to describe me? Persistent, isn't he?
I know. Kiamoitu comes right up the middle. He's going to push Wigman right back, but it's only a 3-man rush. You see the pressure right here. They don't give Wigman any help, so he gets pushed right back into Trent Green. They took both guards and sent them out to help the tackles, but then Trent Green found that hole between the nose tackle and the ends getting up the field.
16-yard gain. Now a quick pass outside to Johnny Morton, a longtime Lion. And he is stopped at the 42-yard line by Chris McAllister.
That's interesting. Wherever Johnny Morton goes, Chris McAllister goes. So they always put Chris McAllister, one of the top corners in the whole NFL. They always put him on their best receiver. So wherever Johnny Morton goes, that's where Chris McAllister is going to be.
2nd down and 3 now. There's Morton and there's McAllister working into your picture. And Priest Holmes busts one into Raven territory, and Holmes takes it to the 41-yard line. So Priest Holmes closing in on 100 yards. That's 16 there and 96 in the game for Priest Holmes.
And we talk about getting an offensive lineman on Ray Lewis. Watch John Welborn here. He's the right tackle. He's going to come off and get Ray Lewis at that 2nd level. See, you double on the first level, then he comes off and he gets Ray Lewis there. Ray Lewis didn't even see Priest Holmes run right by him.
41-yard line, first down, opening drive of the half. Holmes again. You know, I look at Trent Green, John. He's like a good pitcher that doesn't get a lot of support. What I mean by that is his lifetime record as a starter is 500. But his numbers are indicative of a guy who should win about 2/3 of his games. And the problem is the defense. Look at how many points per game he has accounted for his offense when he starts. 25.2. He's right there among the all-timers. But he's at 500 because he's played on teams that haven't had good defensive units and give up a lot of points. Green again. This time to Gonzalez. And he has a first down. Tony to the 26-yard line.
Doesn't that play always work after you get the running game going, then you fake the run and the bootleg? You know, where you fake the run to the left, the quarterback keeps it and goes out. Then he's wide open. He has a receiver wide open. He has lanes to throw in. Watch this. Here goes Priest Holmes this way. Trent Green will fake and come out to this side. You see what it does to the defense? The defense all goes to that side. They leave Tony Gonzalez wide open and Trent Green wide open to throw the ball.
First and 10 now at the 27-yard line. Holmes again, and a key play on this drive so far with a flag thrown here. Key play was Green escaping a would-be sack, getting off the pass to Horn.
77 offense, the 10-yard penalty, still first down.
That's Willie Rowe, so there goes the Holmes carry, and it'll be first and 20. Back to Green for a second on that graphic, John, where you show him among the all-time greats. It's similar to a pitcher who doesn't get a lot of run support. The guy's ERA is always very good, but his record is at 500 because the team has no offense. In this case, the team has no defense.
And I think that's what, you know, you say Kansas City Chiefs, to get to the Super Bowl, what do they have to do? They have to keep Trent Green, their offensive numbers going, and really improve this defense.
That foul from the spot, first and 18, and then again it's Horn taking it to the 21-yard line. So the Chiefs, who've had problems with the outside this year with Kennison hurt, Mark Boerichter got hurt, he's on injured reserve. They've had to mix and match, paste and glue, and this time it's Horn coming up big again.
Yeah, you see the inside receiver goes out, the outside receiver comes in, and Trent Green hits him right in that hole in the zone. There's a little out and up and a slant.
Second and 4 from the 21-yard line. And this time it's Blaylock, with Holmes coming out for a brief rest. Blaylock stopped with no gain by Thomas.
It's a load over there when you get Thomas, and then you get the safeties coming up, and there's no place to bounce to the outside, and the defensive linebackers did a good job of taking away the cutback.
So the Kansas City Chiefs 51 plays to 18 for the Ravens. Third down and 3. This drive is already a 10-play drive. 5.5 minutes plus. Third and 3. Short drop, quick flip, and Gonzalez has no place to go as McAllister takes him out of bounds. And in comes the field goal unit.
What they did, that was one of the things that Dick Vermeil was talking about, is they wanted to get in a bunch formation because that makes the Ravens zone. They got in a bunch. The Ravens were in a zone, but McAllister made the tackle.
This will be 38 yards. Lawrence Tynes. Baker spots it. And the kick is good. So Kansas City takes the lead again with 8:19 left in the third quarter. Chiefs 20, Ravens 17. From Baltimore, where else? Monday Night Football being brought to you by Bud Light. Fresh, smooth, real. It's all here. Cadillac and the all-new STS Breakthrough. And Wendy's Super Value Menu. It's better here. You know, I just had some, John. In
I was going to say that crowd that you saw was alive. That was yesterday. Tonight, just within you.
And the Goodyear blimp providing the aerials of Baltimore and environs as the kickoff is taken at the 4-yard line by B.J. Sams. And Sam's, who had that punt return for a touchdown. Crowd wants a flag, and they will get one for a face mask. You could see that one from the upper deck. When a guy's head turns like that at the end of the play, you know what the call is going to be.
Personal foul, face mask. Number 52 of the kicking team. That's a 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Quentin Caver with 8:13 left. Baltimore with the football for the first time in the second half and down by 3. So a very critical game for each. Next week, McNair should play, Favre should play on Monday night. From the 41-yard line, Bollard under pressure, wobbly pass that's caught out in the flat by Terry Jones, the tight end, to the 45, gain of 13, first down. Here's Michelle.
Well, 2 injuries for Kansas City's defense. Linebacker Scott Fujita, who sprained his right ankle in the first half. They have actually taped an air splint onto that right ankle. His return in this second half is questionable, as is the return of defensive tackle Ryan Sims. He pulled his left hamstring. They iced it at halftime, but they don't know whether he is going to be able to come back or not either, Al.
Yeah, that was on that freak play where he was diving for the loose ball. 1st and 10 at the 45-yard line. Under pressure and sacked. It's a 9-yard sack, and that's Lionel Dalton, who used to be a Raven, coming in to make the sack.
Yeah, and he gets real pressure up the middle. And you just see Lionel Dalton. He's gonna take off. He's gonna be right here. You see in that cock nose position, and he's just gonna come right over the center. See, he just gets him there, no help. He just pushes him right back into Bollard. That's Jonathan Ogden out here. You know, sometimes, and he's a great tackler, a great pass protector. Sometimes he gets a little too high and can get bull rush.
Here's Jamal Lewis, who's had a pretty quiet night because Baltimore has rarely had the football tonight, and he is stopped. So while Holmes on the other side has 101 yards on 26 carries, Jamal Lewis in a limited number of carries, 8. With only 29 yards.
Right, and I think this Kansas City Chief defense is doing a good job. They're doing a good job of getting penetration, and they're doing a good job of tackling. And in their first couple of games, they didn't tackle well. I thought last week they tackled well, and tonight they're tackling well.
3rd down and 21 with 6.5 left in the 3rd. Bowler surveys, 4-man rush. Line does a good job. He flips it outside, and it turns into a nice gain for Terry Jones, but he did step out of bounds, as you can see, about 2.5 yards short of the first down. But rumbling down the sideline was Jones, and it's 4th and 2.5.
Yeah, I was just thinking before that play, talking to Gunther Cunningham last night, he said one of the big problems in our defense is our 3rd and long defense for whatever reason. And I see what the reason is. I think they play a little soft. I think they don't get a good pass rush, and they play a soft zone, and they let things happen in front of them.
There is Gunther Cunningham. He's just watched his defense hold on, and that was Dexter McLean who denied Jones the first down.
Gunther knows that they've just lost about 15 yards of field position there.
Now Baltimore, and this is something they wanted to do. And normally
5-yard penalty. Still 4th down.
See, what I'll never understand about this is if the punting team says we're going to take a delay a game to get more space for our kicker, why in the world would the receiving team not decline the penalty?
The only thing that I can think of is they hope that somehow they can get the ball to Dante Hall. That, that by going 5 yards back, I don't know. I would always decline the penalty because if they're trying to do it, I don't want them to do it.
Right. The punting team is saying we want you to accept the penalty. Why accept it? Perfect.
And
1 yard
your
line.
5 yards right there.
Right there, Chad Williams. One of the officials looked like he might have been calling a touchback. The other said he's down at the 1. So this is a play that's going to be looked at very carefully. This would be a reviewable play. Bounces. Hits Sands.
Number 49. Foot was in on the goal line. Therefore, it is a touchback. 1st and 10.
Yep, foot's on the line. Doesn't matter where the ball is. to the 20-yard line. Almost. 20-yard line. We've been looking at this in commercial break and how close this was, touchback or 1-yard line. And one of the keys is clearly you'll see the foot is on the line here. There it is, and he's trying to reestablish as he gets the foot up. He's trying to reestablish position, but the knee has to come down before anything else were to happen. That's Chad Williams. He got the foot up, and he didn't get the knee down. Had he gotten the knee down, it would have been at the 1-yard line. And that pass is caught by Jason Dunn, but not caught now as they're ruling it incomplete, saying that he didn't have possession. The line judge is there. Another look, John. I don't know if that's clear or not, but once the foot's on the line, it should be a touchback. Here's another one. We're looking at the other play here now. Ball was coming loose.
It looked like it was coming loose, but you didn't see it come loose.
So we got all kinds of stuff going on here right now. The touchback play, that's dead and gone. Nothing to review right there. But when he gets his foot off the goal line, you have to get your knee back down to reestablish position. He didn't quite do that. 2nd down and 10. And Green throws, and that pass is incomplete. Intended for Horn. It's a 3rd down and 10 now. Kansas City up on top. 20-17. Key guys for the Chiefs tonight to this point in the game, up to the moment. Trent Green hitting about 2/3 of his passes for 155. Holmes averaging close to 4 yards a carry in a triple-figure night, and Gonzalez has caught 4 passes.
Isn't that a surprise this early in the games that Priest Holmes has over 100 yards? In fact, the Chiefs had over 100 yards in the first half. 26
totes for Mr. Holmes. Green protected well, and on 3rd and 10 is a flag thrown, and that is caught by Johnny Morton. Wrestled it away from the defensive back. For the moment, it's a 1st down. Let's see about the call, though.
Wrestled it away, I think, from Chris McAllister. Looked like McAllister had great coverage on him.
Prior to the pass, illegal contact, 21 of the defense. That penalty will be declined. Result of the play, 1st down.
And that's McAllister.
Johnny Morton's having a pretty big night here against Chris McAllister. You see, he's working him there. He gets inside, and then he gets McAllister to take that step inside, and then he cuts back out, and he looks like he just takes the ball right off Chris McAllister's shoulder pads.
And possesses it and stays in bounds, and it's 1st and 10 now from the 40-yard line. 5 minutes to go in the 3rd. Holmes strings it out, and when it looks like there's nothing, he turns it into about an 8-yard gain. He's so patient, picks his spots, lets the line do the job, and instead of it being like 2nd and 8, it's 2nd and 2.
You know what it is? He's only 5'9", and he's so quick and powerful, I don't think the defense always sees him. I mean, he gets down like this, and just say he has patience here, patience, wait, and you're going to get some more blockers because all these Chief blockers can all move. Watch the line come out here, the fullback come out here. Everyone is getting on someone, and Priest Holmes knows they'll keep it alive, so he has to keep it alive.
2nd and 2. Holmes now over 5,000 yards as a Chief alone, and this is Blaylock to the 45-yard line. Derek Blaylock, the backup back, and don't forget they also have Larry Johnson as a back, their #1 pick out of Penn State. There's Holmes getting a breather. Johnson looked like he might play last week when Holmes had a bad ankle earlier in the week, recovered to have a good enough day against Houston, and tonight a big night for him. That's Johnson behind him.
Johnson doesn't look like a guy that's going to be playing tonight, does he?
No.
Arms crossed.
Or anytime soon. 1st and 10. Green. That's a 6-yard gain. Catch is made there by Tony Richardson. Ray Lewis mic'd up again.
I just be making a play. Coach, I'm talking about every play. I got 2 men on me. Every single play. Coach, there's no way I can be getting double every play. It's just not possible. It's not possible. What? Look at the papers. It's not possible.
You know, here's Blaylock, and he picks up a first down. If I'm Mike Nolan, the defensive coordinator, and Ray Lewis says I'm getting doubled on every play, I would go, so what else is new?
Yeah, I mean, just keep on playing, which he will do. I mean, Ray Lewis is a fighter, and he's going to continue to play, but he hasn't been doubled on every play. We saw that one run by Priest Holmes that John Welborn was the only guy blocking. So sometimes you get in the way these, you know, this chief offensive line is doing a job, and the way they're moving the ball, sometimes it feels like there's two when there's only one.
33-yard line. Blaylock again. Listen, this is something. You've got Priest Holmes, who's carried 27 times. He needs a blow. You've got Larry Johnson as a #1 draft choice, but he's not going to play. And you got this kid Blaylock coming up. I say kid, 4th year out of Stephen F. Austin, doing a great job on this drive.
And watch, Ray Lewis is only going to get blocked by one guy this time. It's Jordan Black, number 65, who's in there for Brian Waters. And he just gets on him and just stays on him. They said that Brian Waters has cramps, and that's why Jordan Black is in there at that left guard position.
2nd and 3 from the 26-yard line. Blaylock, 4th carry in a row, turns the corner, close to a first down, right at the marker. Blaylock had only carried the ball 3 times all season. Now he has 4 carries on this drive. Historically, a look here, Ray Lewis, 5+ Pro Bowls and a Super Bowl championship before age 30. Willie Lanier's in the Hall of Fame. Jack Lambert, Hall of Fame. Mike Singletary, Canton. There's Mike. Ray Lewis, Canton someday too.
Pretty exclusive club.
Yeah. 1st and 10 from the 22. Good play fake, again a ton of time, and Green throws, and that is caught by the diving Horn inside the 10-yard line. It'll be first down and goal on a 14-yard pickup. And right now the Kansas City Chiefs have outgained the Baltimore Ravens 354 yards to 126.
Now, I know that Trent Green is doing a good job. Priest Holmes is doing a good job. But to me, it's the offensive line. The offensive line is whipping that front of the Ravens.
The Chiefs have run an astonishing 40 more plays than the Ravens. From the 8 on first down. Holmes is back in the game, isn't he, though? To the 1-yard line. Second down and goal.
Excuse me, I was just saying this Raven defense has been on the field 33 minutes of the 44 minutes in this game. And don't you just kind of feel them wearing down? I mean, part of it is how long they've been on the field. And the other part of it is what this chief offensive line is doing to them. Look, they just engage them. They keep their feet going. They get them driven back. They get them driven sideways. And they make pretty big holes for whomever the running back is.
Second down and goal now. 3rd quarter coming to a conclusion. And Holmes can't get in. So they'll switch sides of the field. They'll try to get it in on the east end instead of the west as we tick down to the end of the 3rd quarter. And at the end of 3, the Kansas City Chiefs, with a 3-1 edge in time of possession, lead the Baltimore Ravens 20-17. Monday Night Football from Baltimore resumes after this message from our ABC stations. Back to Baltimore, Monday Night Football. Al Michaels, John Madden, and Michelle Tafoya. 3-point lead for Kansas City. They try to pay off a drive here on 3rd down and goal from the 1-yard line. Holmes is the tailback. Gonzalez is in motion. They give it to Holmes. And Holmes is in again for the touchdown, his 2nd, behind a Will Shields block. And why not? The 9-time Pro Bowler leading the way for Priest Holmes, who went over 5,000 yards as a Chief alone tonight. And it's a 9-point lead going on 10.
You talk about Will Shields. Here he is right here. He's going to pull. Priest Holmes is right back here. He's going to come in and go over the top. Watch Shields here. He pulls, and he leads right through there. Now he gets everyone down. In fact, he knocks him right on his back. When you knock a guy on his back, then your back can dive over it.
Beautifully designed play. Richardson goes one way. Holmes cuts back to the left side. Extra point by Tynes is good. And the Kansas City Chiefs are on top by 10 early in the 4th quarter in Baltimore. And the defensive unit of the Ravens, and they have been on the field all night. As the bouncing kickoff is fielding B.J. Sams from the 10-yard line. And Sams up to the 38-yard line with 14:50 remaining in the fourth quarter. And Kansas City coming in as the underdog tonight, but up by 10.
Let's tear it up. I must insist. Come on. I'm burning all. I'm burning.
The Baltimore Ravens at the 38-yard line. They've had the ball only 11 minutes in the game, and on first down, the pass complete into Chief territory. Kevin Johnson, former Cleveland Brown, played with Jacksonville last year, picks up a first down, 23-yard pickup.
Well, the Ravens haven't been able to do anything offensively, and I think they were trying that, run and run and run. Here, watch Kevin Johnson. He's going to come up, run that deep in, come under control, and then Bowler hits him right there. You see, just as he breaks in, comes under control, there's the ball.
At the Kansas City 40-yard line on first down. Toss back to Jamal Lewis inside the 35, and Lewis out of bounds at the 33-yard line. Forced out there by Jerome Woods. Gain of 7, 2nd and 3.
You see Jonathan Ogden pull on that one, and if you're a corner and you have force on that side and you see him coming, there's no way you want to take it on. Watch Ogden will come out here. Here comes the force man up. He's just going to get Ogden low, try and take him out at the ankle. Here he comes, pull, pull, pull. But in taking Ogden out, he also takes himself out.
2nd and 3 now. Lewis cuts it back. Tough to bring down. 6-yard gain. What's killed the Chiefs this season is the fourth quarter. They've lost to Denver. They've lost to Carolina. They've lost to Houston. Coming into the game tonight, they have been outscored 34-7 in the final period. Of course, this fourth quarter ended with a 3rd and goal, and they scored. But right now, it's the fourth quarter blues, and you can see them maybe starting again the way Baltimore is operating on this drive.
Al Saunders, the offensive coordinator, said last night that Ernie Zampese told him years ago that all games boil down to the last 2 possessions.
There's Lewis busting tackles, and Lewis close to a first down. And Lewis, if anything, when you look at him historically, gets even better later in the game.
Well, you can just see, he says early in the game he has to run over guys. Later in the game, as they get a little tired, then he thinks that it's easier to run over them.
And it should be in this particular case, because this is only his 11th carry of the night.
Right, but that Kansas City defense is fresh also. It's not a worn-down fourth quarter defense.
Freshness against freshness, but right now Baltimore mounting a nice-looking drive. 4 plays. They've covered 45 yards from the 17-yard line. It's Lewis again. A healthy dose of Jamal Lewis. And Lewis again. It takes a couple of guys to bring them down. Gain of 7. Woods and Monty Beisel converge to make the stop.
And that's what Jamal Lewis does so well, and we've seen it a couple times on this drive. He'll start out to the right, and the play is called a run to the right, and then he cuts back to the left, and he's always trying to get over there either behind or close to Jonathan Ogden.
You saw that 5.9. I tried to circle it. It looked like a Chiefs logo. That's what happens when you're right-left-handed. 2nd down and 3, but it illustrates how tough he is at the end of the game. He comes out for a refresher here, and they give it to Chester Taylor, and he takes it down to the 5-yard line. It'll be first down and goal.
That's one of the things that kind of bothers, I think, Brian Billick is that he comes out, he gets the yards, and then he comes out to get a breather when you're down there in the red zone. The good news is he's running well. The bad news is now is when you need him in there to run well.
Sure, 245 pounds is exactly what you want in at the end here. First and goal from the 6-yard line. Taylor, and he's taken down, and let's see if Lewis comes back in, and there's a flag.
This looks like he can't get his breath.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's waiting to get that second breath or whatever you call that after you get gassed and you finally get it again. I don't know. He doesn't look like he's getting it, does he?
No, he doesn't. I mean, you wouldn't think. Well, let's get the call.
Holding 61 of the offense. That's a 10-yard penalty. It's still first down.
You wouldn't think it would be a conditioning issue for a guy who's that good and seems to thrive, on late game carries. But the way it looks right now,
but he always does that. I mean, he'll run 2 or 3 in a row and then come out and let the other guy go for a while, and he's just trying to catch his breath, and get that second wind. And the good news is it's still first down.
First and goal. Lewis has carried 4 times on this drive, but he's still on the sideline. Bowler swings it out to Taylor. And Taylor gets taken down in the open field at the 16-yard line by Sean Barber. It'll be second down and goal. And now Jamal's going to come back.
And Chester Taylor is usually in there on passing downs anyway, so if he had been in there on the second and third down, it wouldn't have been that bad unless the Ravens want to go back to a run here on this second long situation.
Taylor, nice average for the season. Second down and goal at the 16-yard line. Lewis turns it back upfield and is finally forced out of bounds at the 9-yard line. So a big third down and goal coming up for Baltimore.
And we talk about Priest Holmes and the patience he had. Watch Jamal Lewis here. He gets the patience right there. He does a little stutter step. Wait. Let those blocks happen downfield and then run in the crease between them. See the patience there. Keep those feet going. Keep those short choppy steps. And then break off the inside and the outside block.
Third down and goal. Ball at the 8-yard line. Chester Taylor is the running back. A little fade to the corner of the end zone and not even in bounds. Holmes was the guy, and a flag is thrown. That ball would have gone out of the end zone. Dexter McCleon is there, and they're going to flag him.
And Kyle Bowler knew that he had to get rid of that ball out because the Chiefs were coming on a blitz.
22 in the defense. Foul occurred in the end zone. The ball will be placed at the 1-yard line. First and goal.
Dexter McCleon also knows that he has man-to-man. Now again, he can bump him within the first 5 yards. Can't touch him when the ball's in the air. Oh, that's not interference.
Well, not only is it not interference, but the ball is out of the end zone. You saw McClean with his arm above his head saying not catchable. That's not catchable. That's not catchable.
But it wasn't interference anyway. I mean, he was looking back at the ball. He didn't do it. You have to let him do that.
Apart from that, they got it dead right. First and goal from the 1-yard line. And that's intercepted in the end zone by Warfield. And you know what? There's a flag down on that. It's sort of sweet justice in a way. However, now you've got another flag in the end zone. And you can tell this one's going to be against Kansas City when you looked at Billick.
Billick is livid. I think what he's livid about is Kyle Bowler running to his left and trying to throw that ball back in there in the end zone. I mean, he has to be upset with Bowler.
Prior to the pass, holding number 44 in the defense.
Wow. Billick won't be so livid right now.
No, he's still going to be upset with his quarterback. There's Warfield there, number 44. And again, he just had a hold of the jersey. That's holding. That's defensive holding.
That is a penalty.
Right, automatic first down.
So first and goal now from inside the 1-yard line. Jamal Lewis. Touchdown. He was stopped at the goal line, but you could see him get his hand over the goal line, and the official comes in from the side and rules it a touchdown. All you have to do is get the ball over the goal line, and it's a touchdown, and he did.
Jamal Lewis says that Priest Holmes is his mentor. He watched Priest Holmes do this. He doesn't jump as well as Priest Holmes does, but he knows one thing, that the ball has to break the plane of the goal line. So his hands are so strong that he can do this. High school kids watching at home, running backs, don't do that.
Before his forward progress is stopped. Stover. And that'll make it a 3-point game. So Lewis gets into the end zone. And the Kansas City Chiefs lead has gone from 10 to 3 with 9:14 to go. Here at the ballpark in Baltimore, M&T Bank Stadium. It's had a couple of different names through the years. Kickoff taken at the 5-yard line by Dante Hall. Hall up past the 30 to the 31-yard line. Dallas Thomas makes the stop. 9:07 left in the fourth.
And I'm super bad.
That Baltimore touchdown drive featured 7 runs and 2 passes. It's a 3-point game. Kansas City now at the 31-yard line. Brian Waters is back in the game. The left guard, first down from the 31. Fake to Holmes. Green on the run. Throws. Wobbler incomplete. Intended for Horn. Chased by Suggs. Ray Lewis again.
Hey! Hey! Let's keep it hot. Let's keep it hot. It's supposed to be physical. It's supposed to be physical. Hey, man. Hey, listen here. I don't care nothing about none of that. Man, let's go 3-0. Get Trent Green on the ground. Get him on the ground, and it's over. All right? Let's go.
They've only gotten Green on the ground once tonight. 1 sack, 3 yards. 2nd and 10. Green is 18 of 26 for 195. Here goes Holmes to the short side of the field. Runs right by Lewis and is bumped out of bounds after a 12-yard pickup by Will Demps. And nobody can turn a crowd off faster than Priest tonight.
Right, they worry about Trent Green, and Priest Holmes has gained about 130 yards now. See, they had motion and they fake a reverse and they kind of hold that one side, and then Priest Holmes is able to get on the corner here. Watch Tony Richardson here, number 49. Ray Lewis says that he's being blocked by 2 guys all the time. That was just one guy. That was Tony Richardson.
From the 43-yard line. Holmes again. 45-yard line. Kelly Gregg makes the tackle. The Baltimore defense so potent, but tonight, touchdown on a 10-play drive, field goal on a 12-play, 14-yard touchdown drive. Look at the length of those drives, the number of plays, 14, 13, and to the point where Kansas City's run 68 plays to Baltimore's 31.
Right, and I go back to the domination of the Chiefs' offensive line. That's where that starts. If they don't do that, you are not going to have that kind of domination.
2nd and 8. Pass to the 42, caught. Johnny Morton got free, got inside Chris McAllister. Morton and McAllister all night long, and for Johnny Morton now, that's a total of 4 catches for 59 yards.
Johnny Morton's kind of showing them a little something tonight. You know, they say that the Chiefs have a running game, an offensive line, but they don't have outside or wide receivers, and Johnny Morton has been going against Chris McAllister and doing a pretty good job. That one came out a bunch. You know, they like to get in that. That wasn't a great throw, but Johnny Morton made a pretty good play on it.
More than halfway through the quarter. Laylock. And the backup back to the 39-yard line for a pickup of 3, 2nd and 7. Again to set it, Kansas City 0-3. Very few teams have been 0-4. The last one would be San Diego to go 0-4 in the early 90s and get to the playoffs. Meanwhile, Baltimore losing on opening day, trying to go 3-1, trying to keep pace with Pittsburgh in the AFC North.
Look at those plays. 70 plays. They've had the ball for over 36 minutes.
2nd down and 7. Holmes is back. 2-step drop. Caught. 2 yards shy of the first down by Johnny Morton.
You're talking about Ray Lewis getting fired up. Looks like old Johnny Morton's fired up, doesn't it? I've always liked him. He played for years in Detroit. He's one of those guys that's a very competitive guy. He just has to get inside here. The corner's playing him off, so he couldn't get inside him right away. So he just kind of shortens that slant down a little and gets in front of Chris McAllister.
Very big 3rd and 2. Deep drop. Green has it knocked down. Looks like he wanted to pull it down, so he can't get that one away, and it's going to be 4th down. You can't risk a field goal here, I wouldn't think, because it's over 50 yards if you attempt it. And
you're right.
Well, the downside is you give Baltimore the ball at the 42-yard line if you miss it in the 3-point game. You can't afford that.
And he did try and pull it down. Watch this. You see, he comes here. Had he thrown that ball, it would have been intercepted by Chris McAllister. You see, that 21 was right there waiting for it. Trent Green started to throw, but he would have thrown it right to McAllister.
Jason Baker trying to pooch one. Fair caught. 14-yard line by B.J. Sams. 20-yard punt. 5:50 remaining in regulation with Kansas City leading Baltimore by 3. The Baltimore Ravens down by 3 begin this drive at their own 14-yard line with 5:50 to play in the 4th quarter. And Bowler to throw on 1st down. And Bowler finds his man underneath. And that is Clarence Moore, who makes his first catch of the night, a rookie out of northern Arizona. Hauls in his first catch of the night. Bowler is 8 of 12. He's only thrown 12 passes tonight. And
that was a pretty good one. That was his 3rd read. He went one place, looked back to the 2nd, and then ended up throwing and completing to his 3rd.
1st and 10, 25-yard line. Looking down the road, each team has all of its timeouts left. Flag. Lewis to the line of scrimmage and a little bit more. Jeff Triplett.
Holding number 64 in the offense. It's a 10-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
Edwin Mulatalo.
Edwin Mulatalo is the big left guard. You know, that left side of this line, Jonathan Ogden is 340 pounds. Mulatalo is 345 pounds. So you got, when you run to the left, you got about 700-pound a guy there that you run behind. And they can get some movement too, although they haven't been doing it tonight. I mean that's a big old load right there.
That's a lot of guys. 1st and 20 from the 15-yard line. Movement before the snap.
I think the center snapped the ball early.
Casey Roback.
That'll happen sometimes. You know, they forget the snap count.
Prior to the snap, false start. Right guard, the offense. It's a 5-yard penalty. Still 1st down.
Well, there was a lot of action up there for the moment. He calls him on Anderson.
Well, it was a funny play. Benny Anderson, I guess, moved, and then Roback snapped the ball. Kyle Bowler takes it and takes a knee. Watch him. See the ball snap. No one else moves, and then Bowler takes a knee right there.
He knows the flag is coming. 1st and 25 now. They need breathing space. And Lewis gives them a little with a pickup of about 6 up to the 16-yard line.
What they have to do here is be thinking of 1st downs, you know, that they have to get some mixture. I mean, Kyle Bowler is going to have to make some plays. That's that whole thing, you know, that we talked about earlier, you know, can a quarterback, you know, just with a good defense and a good running game, that's all well and good. But when you get behind and the clock is running out, somewhere in the game, your quarterback does have to make a play.
2nd and 19. Tries to make a play here. Gets good protection. Slings one. Incomplete. And here, you know, I go back to the beginning of the game and go back to the 2000 season, John, where Trent Dilfer's the quarterback, and they basically say, don't lose the game. Manage the game. But then you get into situations like this where your quarterback down by 3 with 4:14 to go. He has to help you win the game.
Right. Until this drive, Kyle Bowler had only thrown 11 passes. And they, you know, when I was talking to Brian Billick, he said we would like him to throw like 18 to 25 passes a game. But that means that your defense plays well, your running game is going, you can go play pass. He can make some 1st downs running. Hasn't done any of those things tonight.
3rd and 19. Big conversion here. Otherwise, they have to start taking timeouts on defense. And a big play by the Chiefs for the sack. Eric Hicks is the first guy, 98, who comes in. Huge play. Force the punt from deep in their own territory. Casey will get the ball. They can start using the clock. If they can pick up a 1st down or 2, they make Baltimore use all of its timeouts. And doesn't Billick know that right now?
Right. Exactly. He knows that, and that's the thing. The Kansas City defense had really been having a tough time on 3rd and long, and you saw that was a line stunt where the tackle works to the outside, and the end Eric Hicks comes to the inside and right up the middle.
Dave Zastudil, good punt. Fair catch signal was made, and they let it bounce at the 43, and it takes a little bit more of a Baltimore roll. Down at the 40-yard line. So 3.5 minutes to go. The Kansas City Chiefs looking for their first win of the season. On top, 27-24 in a good one in Baltimore. I saw those harbor lights.
What if that guy's watching the game? He's just cruising out there.
Like McCovey Cove.
Doesn't even know what's going on.
Goodyear Blimp providing the aerials. You look down into M&T Bank Stadium. And now the Kansas City Chiefs seeking first downs, seeking to take as much time off the play clock as they can, seeking to make Baltimore use its timeouts. And they begin with Holmes. And Priest has nothing cooking there, and they lose 7.
It was interesting there, Al. The Ravens were in a 4-4 defense. They had 4 defensive linemen, 4 linebackers, and 3 defensive backs. So they are play and run. There's no way. See, here's a linebacker, here's a linebacker, here's a linebacker, here's a linebacker. They only have 3 defensive backs, and they're just playing the run. So if Kansas City on that first down wanted to get a first down, a pass would have been a great play.
2nd down and 16. It's a 6-yard loss. And Billick felt 2nd and 16. Hold off calling the timeouts on this side of the 2-minute warning. See what happens here. Green's going to swing one to the outside, and that's incomplete. So this is setting up perfectly for Baltimore right now because the clock is stopped. It's 3rd and 16, and they haven't had to use a timeout. Tonight, they've made big plays on 3rd down and long. As you see, 5 times they've converted in 6 attempts, and this is a 3rd and 16 with the crowd on its collective feet.
Yeah, and that big play was the Raven defensive play on first down, going that 4-4, getting the penetration, throwing them for a loss, and creating 2nd and long. Then the incomplete pass led to 3rd and long.
6 defensive backs in there for the Ravens on 3rd down and 16 underneath. That is caught well short of the first down. Chris Horn to the 44-yard line. The Baltimore Ravens are going to take a timeout right there. Otherwise, Kansas City could just about have run it to the 2-minute warning.
Yeah, because in essence, Baltimore has 4 timeouts. They get the 2-minute warning as a timeout, plus they had all 3 of theirs. Well, really 5 timeouts because the clock will stop at change of possession on the punt.
Plenty of time for Baltimore. They're going to get the ball back with about 2.5 remaining. So a big defensive stop, 3 and out. And in comes Jason Baker. B.J. Sams, that punt return for the touchdown. Big time kickoff return man. So the rookie making his presence felt tonight. The rookie out of McNeese State. And who would have thought it was Sams and not Dante Hall who would have the big game tonight running back kicks. Jason Baker. Flagged. No play. No play. Flagged before the snap.
Prior to the snap, false start, 52 of the offense. 55-yard penalty, still put down.
Put the time back on the clock as well. Quentin Cavers, 2nd time he's been flagged on a special teams play tonight.
Now Jason Baker's going to have to make a real punt. Remember that punt return where Sams did return the punt for a touchdown was low and short.
This is a fairly short, wobbly kick. It bounces at the 26 and goes sideways. And so Bowler and company will take over at their own 27-yard line, down by 3.
Last time they had the ball, we were talking about how Kyle Bowler has to make some plays. I mean, you get to a situation in a game or a position like this where you have to make plays, and this is just a carryover. It's the same thing. The defense did a good job of stopping him, 3 and out, getting the ball back. And he, on this drive, if they're going to tie it and or win, is going to have to make some plays.
Could be a coming-of-age drive for Mr. Bowler right here.
He hasn't had a lot of success against this defense tonight.
Chester Taylor is the running back. Lewis is not in the game at the moment. Bowler going to try to take off. Does, and loses the football. And it is recovered by Baltimore.
You know, he did that same thing last week. Running to the right, he's just running to the ball, and he just fumbled it. As he went to put it down, the ball hit his leg. And another one, he was going into the end zone and fumbled last week. See, he puts the ball away here, and it just got knocked out. He did get it away. That one didn't hit his leg. That ball was just knocked out of his hand.
Kevin Johnson recovered. Stills was in on the play, and they pick up the first down now as they keep possession. And Chester Taylor moves it up to the 43-yard line. And that will be a first down. The clock is stopped because Taylor is hurt. So to get him off the field, and then they'll start to wind it.
Chester Taylor is a running back.
Since the clock operator stopped the clock prematurely. That is the 2-minute warning.
Well, the clock operator stopped it, and then Triplett's right. For what he thought was an injury, that takes us to the 2-minute warning. Should be a wild final 2 minutes. 3-point game.
The way Priest Holmes has played, it would be hard for it not to be Priest Holmes, huh?
Holmes with 125 yards, 33 carries. Ravens tonight 213 offense, but 250 on return yardage. Most of that Sam's. Musa Smith now comes into the game. Jamal Lewis is on the bench with 2 minutes to go. And a 1st and 10 at the 43-yard line.
Well, they probably figure they're not going to run anymore, and Jamal Lewis isn't a pass receiver nor pass blocker.
So Smith comes in. They go out of the shotgun. So Kansas City can think about playing the pass. But here they come anyway with the blitz. Bowler stays up, and then his own man takes him down. But that was Benny Sapp, unblocked, coming from the outside for a big sack.
And he came big time, too. He was right up there in the line, and he got to Bowler before Bowler even saw him come. They blitzed off both slots.
Now a 4-man rush, conventional, and Bowler's pass is underthrown, intended for Terry Jones, 3rd and 19.
This was a play before, but watch Benny Sapp come off that corner. I mean, he's right here where you darn near have to count him. And that ball snapped. He gets a good jump on it. There's no blocker there. Kyle Bowler doesn't have a chance.
And now 3rd down and 19. They have to get to the Kansas City 47-yard line. Chiefs rush 4. Underneath, caught 38-yard line, and then tackled immediately is Kevin Johnson. And now they're going to take a timeout here. They could have rushed the punting unit on, taken a couple of timeouts, and been left with a little bit of time at the end. But they're going to go for it now on 4th down. And if they don't make it, they can still take, well, they can take one more timeout because they're using one here.
You know, it's going to be interesting here what Gunther Cunningham calls here. I think his blitz has been very successful. You know, that on that one they completed a pass, and again, they didn't get close to a 1st down. On 2nd down, he blitzed him, and he got there. The way Gunther has both hands on his head right now, I'm thinking, I would say that he wants to blitz him. And that's what I think he's doing. And he's having a meeting with himself.
This is like Karnak.
Yeah, right. He's saying, self, I want to do this. You know, and you put it up there, and there's something in the envelope. You're not sure what it is.
The answer is a blitz. The question is, what do you do on 4th and 13 with 90 seconds to go?
And they haven't done well in their first 3 games on long yardage defenses. This is not a blitz situation for them here. Not a blitz look, although they are blitzing.
Here they come. And Bowler's going to throw deep. And the pass is incomplete and almost caught by Kevin Johnson. He was with Greg Wesley. Reached for it. Almost was able to get it back into his body, but can't. And now the Kansas City Chiefs will take all the time off the clock.
Yeah, we talked about, you know, what Gunther Cunningham was going to do, and he did come into blitz. And, of course, when you blitz, you leave man-to-man downfield. And like you say, that's as close as you can come. The big thing is when you get your hands, when the ball is coming in, you have to get both hands up. He only got the one hand up. Here's the blitz we were talking about. See, he has pressure from the left corner, pressure from the right outside. No one gets there. Bowler did have time to throw that one.
Kansas City, a little kneel down here. Baltimore can take a timeout. And they do, but all without a timeout now. Well, Gunther, you know, what it is here is you're so close, as you can see, to the fans, so they're giving Gunther some lip. And Gunther doesn't take a lot of lip.
No. Gunther gives lip. He doesn't take lip. I'll tell you, he's done a good job here tonight. I mean, this Kansas City defense was maligned coming into this game, but they did the job tonight.
And all Casey has to do now is kneel down twice, because 120 seconds equals 240 seconds. 40 plus 40.
And I think I just saw a little smile on Dick Vermeil's face that he probably hasn't had in a month.
Dick Vermeil will enjoy that plane ride home, because if this team had lost tonight, they would have been 0-4. They would have had a week off next week. They would have had 13 days before their next game. And what they've really done tonight, very clearly, is salvage their season.
Yeah, and you talk about being in a corner, back up against the wall, all the cliches. The Chiefs had them all, but just when you watched them last week, you knew that they were a better team. I mean, they were 0-3, and you knew that this wasn't an 0-3 team, and no part of this game tonight did they play that way.
So the Pittsburgh Steelers are all alone on top in the AFC North, and the Kansas City Chiefs have a victory now. They go to 1-3. And the Kansas City Chiefs will take a week off. Baltimore, meanwhile, goes to Washington next Sunday night. And then Kansas City has its next two games at home. They have Atlanta. And right now, of course, the Falcons are undefeated, but they have Detroit next week. They could still go in there 5-0. And they have Indianapolis. So Manning and company will go to Kansas City. So it doesn't get a lot easier. Before that, they go to Jacksonville. Kansas City will go to Jacksonville on the 17th of October. So the Jaguars, then the Falcons, and then Indianapolis. Meanwhile, Priest Holmes tonight, 125 yards, the big man for KC. And the Chiefs needing a win desperately. Pull one out, 27-24 over the Baltimore Ravens. Priest Holmes, 33 carries, 125 yards. And speaking of Priest, here he is with Michelle.
With Trent Green and Priest Holmes. Priest, let's start with you. 33 carries this week after 32 last week. How aware were you of how much you were working?
Well, I knew this would be a day where we're going to run the ball. The reason why is because we know that the defense is going to be aggressive. But the one way that you have to attack an aggressive defense is you got to run right at them. And then we set them up with the pass with Trent.
Why did it work so well against this tough of a defense?
Well, number one, we got to keep the faith. And that was the first thing that we did while coming out here. And the one thing I can tell you is that Trent has the most confidence I've ever seen in a quarterback, and he's our leader.
How much were you inspired by your dad's pregame message to you?
I loved it. I really want to say thank you, and I appreciate all the troops out there that sent that welcome.
Congratulations. Let's turn it over now to this confident Trent Green, 21 of 31 and a touchdown pass. The offensive line did a terrific job, but what else worked against this very good defense?
Well, he just said it, the running game. And like you said, all the credit goes to the offensive line. Our running game was there today. That obviously opened up the passing game. Early in the game, we started doing a lot of drop back type passing, but as the running game developed, we worked more on our play action type stuff, and that became effective.
Second Monday night game in a row, no turnovers, and the visitors win by 3. 27-24. Kansas City wins it. Next week to Green Bay we go. Brett Favre and the Packers against the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football. Until then, Al Michaels, John Madden, Michelle Tafoya, our entire ABC Sports crew saying good night from Baltimore.